We'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which this podcast was produced, the Gadigal People of the Eora Nation. We pay our respects to elders past and present. This episode contains Ben Besant's first-hand experience of the Lindt Cafe siege and includes discussions of terrorism, violence, death and PTSD. If any of these topics are triggering for you, please give this episode a miss or seek help by visiting Lifeline's website at lifeline.org.au or by calling 13 11 14.
It's December 15th, 2014, and a terrorist has 18 people held hostage inside the Lindt Cafe in the heart of the Sydney CBD.
A police operation is underway in Martin Place in Sydney CBD.
We've just got some breaking news. There's a police operation underway in the heart of the city and several police vehicles are at the scene.
What you're watching is live. It's happening here in Martin Place, 40 metres from where we're standing.
Tactical Operations Unit Officer Ben Besant is in position with his M4 pointed directly at the target.
There are dozens and dozens of police. Some are very heavily armed in helmets and Kevlar suits.
Through the window, Ben sees the man wearing a backpack, stretched by its contents and two wires looping out from the bottom, one black and the other red. He knows the second that goes off, he and everyone around him are dead. He sends off one last text to his pregnant wife at home, asking for some photos of their young daughter. But Ben has a job to do, and there's no decision to be made. He isn't leaving these hostages. I'm at Middleton, and this is Head Game. Today, inside the mind of the man who brought the Lindt Cafe siege to a close. I am super stoked to have Ben Besant on my podcast, Head Game. Now, this man is a man of my own heart. He was a tactical operations unit officer in the Lindt Cafe siege. Mate, we've got loads to talk about. It's an absolute pleasure having you on here. And like I said, mate, you are a man of my own heart. And I can't wait to get into the thick of things. But before we do, how did you get involved with becoming part of this unit? Was it always something that you grew up with? Was your father in the police force? Did you have a military background? How did that happen?
Firstly, mate, it's a pleasure to be on this podcast with you, and quite the introduction you just gave me, which is appreciated. To start off with your questions, it was more my grandfather. He was in the Royal Australian Air Force as a flight engineer. His father, so my great-grandfather, was in the Australian Light Horse, involved in the Battle of Beersheba and stuff like that. But growing up, I would say, yeah, my grandfather was a huge part of my life. Told me lots of stories relating to his unit, war stories, all that type of thing. So yeah, it did have an impact and shaping me going forward in life, I'd say.
Why did you choose to go police and not military, if the military was sort of ingrained in you from a young age?
Yes, so I'd say after I left school, I decided I was just going to take it easy for a little while. I went and worked with my dad doing excavation and a number of other jobs. I always imagined just joining the army. Through school, I obviously wanted to be in the RAAF, which require a great deal of schoolwork and aptitude in that area, which I may have fallen slightly short on. So I was processing that for a little while, but yeah, I always imagined I'd join the army. Then a good mate of mine who was in the police force, having good chats to him, telling us all the sort of things that they do and how good it was, and still in the back of my mind the whole time, I always imagined joining the military. So I did. I signed up with the police force. I joined them. It wasn't fulfilling that side of me, the service, and the wanting to be more military based. So I did join the Army Reserves. I was in that for probably a year and a half. I was trained in infantry, attached to 1 Commando, which is the reserve unit over here.
And that's all whilst being in the police?
Yeah, whilst, they're very accommodating with that. They give you leave for all that. So, yeah, my plan was to then go on and do selection, and a lot of people, once they actually get through in the reserve selection, then move into the full-time commandos. But I always knew about the TOU, the Tactical Operations Unit, and which is realistically the closest thing to the military within the police force.
So you're like a special force within the police force, right?
Yeah. So the way it's set up with governments in Australia and each state, so we are responsible for the counter-terrorism response for New South Wales. So that's why we take a year of courses. We do above and beyond other things. We do helicopter operations, fast rope and all that sort of thing, lots of tactical roping courses, all our water operations training. So yeah, and then active shooter. So we do all of that, and we're trained to do that, because ultimately if there's a terrorist attack in New South Wales, what happens is we respond. So
you're doing all your tactical training, your fast roping and your firearms training, etc., etc. We're going to jump now. We're going to jump straight into Martin Place. And for those of you that know Martin Place, you'll know the Lindt Cafe very well. And, we know it very well because it was global coverage. I remember watching it being live streamed. But just take me through when you woke up, how the day went and how it just transpired into you all of a sudden being fucking at that door, cameras in your face, the whole world's attention is zoomed in on your team.
Yeah, it was a big day, and it's a day that I'll never forget. I'd say more in the aftermath, everyone with their opinions on it should have been done differently. It should have been done by the special forces. It should have been, everyone has an opinion on everything. But yeah, so that morning I was just on shift, so I started at 7 a.m. I was actually in our unit because we're specialised and obviously see a lot of trauma, and that they make our unit go and see the shrinks that they have within the police force. I'd say more a box ticking exercise than anything, but as I came back into the office, I knew instantly something was wrong. I'll just go back slightly before that. We knew it was a matter of time. We've been doing lots of CT work, so counter-terrorism work. We've been arresting. There was a large cell, I think it was up to 30 to 40 guys, so we've been doing a lot of arrests in relation to that. Leading up to it, there was the attack on the two guys down in Victoria, the counter-terrorism police got stabbed. Obviously after 9/11, and there's terrorist incidents happening around the world. So we knew something was coming, constant briefings daily. But yeah, as I came back into the office, it was just a very different feel straight away. Police negotiator running through the office, which is something you never see, is a negotiator.
Yeah, your
running.
spider sense is just...
Yeah. And then as I walked in, a sergeant there, he's walked up, just grab your stuff, we're going. I believe I just said to him, so the big one's happening, and he's going, yep, let's go. So that's all it took. Just raced downstairs. There was another operator in our armoured vehicle. So we rushed down to Martin Place, and it was just a scene of chaos, as you can imagine. There's general duties cops everywhere trying to clear pedestrians off the street. There was our guys trying to file into positions. And I was allocated to the Alpha team, the entry team straight away, and we were being briefed. Honestly, it was by the second things were changing. But right from the beginning, we were told a man of Middle Eastern appearance with a shotgun and a backpack claiming to have explosives in the cafe. So, yeah, I'd say right from the beginning, I knew it was real.
Wow. So when's the first time you step on the ground and you, as an individual and a team, start processing and breaking this down, because now you're the eyes and ears?
Yeah, of course. And as you know, you're scrambling, trying to get intel together, you're trying to work out best positions. Yeah, we had Sierra teams, so sniper teams going up. We had 3 separate sniper teams in different locations. they really had very limited vision. And initially we pulled up on, say, down the bottom on Elizabeth Street with Martin Place. Then we were deployed up onto Phillip Street. It's like a truck loading bay, which is only really 30 metres or so from the front entry. And yeah, like you said, you need eyeball into it. You need vision in to see what's going on. There's only so much vision the snipers had. So that's why myself and my shield man, Paulie, we went to our team leader and said, look, this is not good. We don't have any real intel on what's going on. We've had no eyeball into there for a while. So he gave us permission to push forward. So it was just my shield man and myself as the first cover man. We pushed forward to the first of 4 windows on the cafe. And from there, I was able to, get eyeball into the cafe. I was able to get quite a bit of vision what was happening inside. I saw a number of hostages in there who were completely traumatised, visibly shaking and crying. I saw a number of them holding up the black Islamic flags to the front windows opposite Channel 7. And then, I saw him quite a few times. I saw his shotgun. I saw the way he was moving. He was very serious straight away. And the backpack, it was a big black camel mountain back, and I could see clearly 2 wires protruding from the bottom. In my mind, my shieldman's mind, and my supervisor who pushed forward, we wholeheartedly believed it was a bomb right from the beginning. We'd done lots of specialist training with the military, SOA and all that sort of thing, and so from everything, all our training, we believed it was a bomb right from the beginning, which changes the whole course of the job, as you can imagine.
Absolutely, it does. Absolutely, it's you're on tender hooks there. You're thinking, people don't realise hostage rescue is exactly that. If you can rescue all of those hostages and you don't have to fire around, then wow. So you're up against the window. You've got good eyes on now. Do you ever lock eyes with the terrorist? Do you ever lock eyes with the target? And when you get there and you see the hostages, is there ever a moment where you're just like, whoa?
Yeah. So we actually got vision into the cafe probably up to 30 minutes or so. The whole time he was walking around, or any time he went past a window, he'd always have the shotgun on a hostage. So he'd always be marching a hostage around with him or to the back of their head. So for people out there saying it should have been a sniper shot right from the beginning, that obviously voids that. As you know, the body's natural reaction, if you're shot, is to jerk, hence pull the trigger, which would kill the hostage. We didn't realise at the time through the building manager that it used to be a bank too. So the glass is toughened glass too. So you need specialised round for that. Yeah, and then also on top of that, common practice for that time's a dead man switch on the bomb too, isn't it? So you shoot him, even if you shot him in the right spot, he didn't kill the hostage. Release dead man switch, everyone in the cafe's dead instantly. So that was always a consideration there.
So you're feeding back intel. I suppose you're receiving it tenfold as well.
Yeah.
What's the process like through your head? Put us in your head in that time when all of this information is just you're being overwhelmed with it.
Yeah. So our primary job is to get intel on each of the hostages, back descriptions of them, and we did manage to see them for quite a while, and as much intel and information on him. I'd say on a personal level, me seeing a lot of these hostages, as you can imagine, you get a bit of an emotional attachment to them, so it becomes more than just a job with just numbers, and your overwhelming instinct with people in our line of work, you want to go in and rescue them. You want to do your job. You want to be allowed to do your job and go in, and that wasn't allowed to happen for quite a long time. Yeah.
What's going through your head, as the time's ticking?
We were there for up to 16 hours, so it was a long day. And we obviously chatted amongst ourselves in a group, and we all believed it was a bomb, and we sort of bit of dark humour joking about it. We all go in, there'll be beer and medals for the missus and the families, all that sort of thing. But yeah, then it became quite real where we 100% believe we run into that cafe, he's going to set the bomb off, every one of us is going to die. So that was a confronting realisation, but it was something that everyone in my team and I believe the other team, we all had to get over, and we dealt with emotionally that the moment we run in there, the beyond probability, we all believed we were going to die. So that was difficult for us, to the point we all sent messages home. I know I did. I sent messages to my wife at the time. Tried saying my goodbyes through text message without alarming her or knowing what I thought.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I got her to send some pics of my little girl, and yeah, that was a very real and confronting moment. She being pregnant too, I never believed I was going to be able to see my second, you know.
And how did that work for you psychologically? Because does it ramp you up? Does it G you up? Or is it a case of, listen, I just wanted to see your face before this shit show kicks off?
Yeah, I'd say with this job it was different than other jobs. Like I'm assuming I'd probably deal with things the same with you, just deal with the situation and worry about ramifications later. Normally it happens like that. But being there for 16 hours and talking about it amongst your mates, and it just became very real. And I 100% believe that I go in there that I'm going to die. So I was in a roundabout way saying goodbye, and I just wanted to see a couple more pics of my daughter again. One of my best mates, Paulie's a shield man. He's showing me some pics of his young bloke. So yeah, I think in a roundabout way, he even said to me, "Love you, bro," and yeah, I said, "I love you, man." So in sort of a roundabout way, we were sort of saying goodbye to each other, you know. So
a fucking emotional roller coaster.
Yeah,
wow.
It was. Yeah.
And then you get the green light. Tell me about that coming over the radio, right? You know, you green lit, let's go.
So, as you know, you're prepared the whole day, but then you have different situations where it ramps right up and your adrenaline's pumping. You've got to try and deal with that, not suppress it, but use it. So highs and lows all day. But then the radio call coming over that they believed it was settling down for the night, and then it was within 30 seconds of that we heard the first shotgun round within the cafe go off. So, yeah, from that very moment, we're completely heightened. We're completely ready. We're just desperate to go in. I remember even looking forward at Paulie, and he's just rocking on his feet. We're just desperate and just waiting to go. And then, no call. We didn't go in. From that point, with the shotgun, we didn't have too much intel coming in straight away. We knew hostages had run out. We had one guy actually run up and then run down Phillip Street so we could see him. So we knew hostages come out. We knew he'd been fired on. And then we get that coming over the radio. And so we're just ready. We're heightened. It's 100%. We're mentally prepared. And then there was a second shotgun blast went off a little bit later. That was when he actually took one of the hostages, Tory Johnson, had him on his knees, and the first round he's actually fired above his head. We didn't know this at the time, but this is obviously what I know now. Our snipers had very limited vision. Then there was a third shot rang out, and still remember the words coming over, hostage down, white window 2, hostage down, white window 2. So we knew he'd now executed a hostage, which is difficult to still even talk about. Yeah, the code word, the EA code word came over, tiger, tiger, tiger. So Paulie, shield man, carrying ballistic shield. As you know, they're pretty heavy, but set off at a great rate. He sprints down to the front entry windows. It's 2 large pane glass windows propped on the left. I'm in position, muzzle up just over his left shoulder, got my light source on, staring into the cafe, just desperate to find him. A lot of glare coming back off the cafe. And as I'm sure you know, everything in these situations just slows down like so much. It's ridiculous how much it slowed down. And I remember looking in, scanning. I've seen him. Our EA was the last two blokes on the stack were to try and punch through the first window with a breaching shotgun and deploy sound and flash grenades through the first window. That's our only form of distraction we were approved to use. And as I touched on before, we couldn't get through. It used to be a bank, so the rounds they had couldn't get through. So even that didn't work. But as I've looked in, I've sighted him. My light source picked him up. He's still wearing his white shirt. Still see the straps on the backpack. He's initially looking up to them. Then he's seen me and he's swiveled. He had his shotgun off his hip and swiveled it straight to face me. And we had our eyes completely locked at that point. I was just waiting for the breacher, which felt like it took too long in the moment because everything had slowed down so much. That might have been a second or two, but
even a split second.
Oh, even a split second, and you can't really explain it to people who haven't lived it. But then, he's breached out the glass window on the left. Paulie's stepped in, and I just, as soon as I took my first step, just fire and movement, just bang, cracked off a round at him. I had my light source and laser pointer, centre body mass, and I got off 2 rounds, I'd say. And that's when he's fired on us the first time. And in a dark space like a cafe, you can imagine a muzzle flash from a shotgun, huge flash. I knew it at that point being fired upon, but still had my shield man sort of some cover. I just kept moving to the threat as we're trained to do, just push to the threat, and I just kept firing on the move. I did hear someone screaming out, man down behind me, but I knew I had to block it out because my job and the only chance I believed in that time was to get him down so he was incapable of detonating the bomb. So I was completely fixated on him and getting rid of him as a threat. I had to block everything out. I continued to walk forward, just firing in the movement every time the muzzle was stabilised, just crack another round off. And I hit something with my foot. There was a partition at some point. I stopped and just kept firing, and that's when he fired off his second round. And in that moment, this is probably 7 metres away, pretty close. You're doing well to miss with a shotgun at that range. And I became very aware in that moment that I was now on my own. My shield man had been, the first round that he cracked off actually hit the other glass entry door, clipped his shield as well, and the whole weight of that glass came down on top of him, and it just pulled him the shield down momentarily, like we said before, but enough for me to keep pushing forward. But in that moment, I still remember behind my rifle, just squinting. I was sure I was going to get hit, with a shotgun at that range, and I didn't, which is good. And then I kept firing on him, and then within my head, the questioning why hadn't he gone down. I knew my rounds were hitting. I was centre body mass. My laser pointer's on him, so I just moved it up onto his head and kept firing. And then I knew I'd hit him. He started to crumple. In that moment, I can't be sure if he's taken a knee or not. So I followed him down and fired another couple of times till he came to a rest. And I was just completely fixated on him with my ready to go, ready to fire on him. Even if he twitched or moved, so I would have fired again. He's the only threat. He's the one can potentially detonate a bomb. So just stayed fixated on that moment until one of the stunnies that were deployed may well have bounced off the ground and just cracked up and just boom, straight in my left ear. I've still got tinnitus and hearing loss to this day, but in that moment it was enough to snap me out of everything being slowed down and just my fixation on him. And then I heard someone screaming out with me, and that was my shield man. Then he's pushed forward, I pushed forward on his shoulder and stood over him, and I knew very quickly he was no longer a threat. He's just a pool of blood on the ground. I was only there momentarily, but it's still a moment I think about.
It happens so slow, like you said, Ben. It happens slow. It's hard not for it to be imprinted in your mind, whether you like it or not. you're so hyper focused and things that you could, the detail of things, you can still like remember his face, his facial expressions, it's embedded there forever. So it's not like you can sort of unprocess it, because again, until you've been there and understand it, you're taking every single bit of detail in, every single, subconsciously, every single moment in, every single millisecond is it counts.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It's hard to really explain, but I get it, mate. I get it.
Yeah, and for me, it felt like minutes rather than seconds.
Yeah,
and that was a lot of the criticism I received personally later on. Why did I fire on him and shoot him so many times? And all the ballistics testing, everything that came out, proved that the reality was that the whole time from the point that the window was breached and I took my first round to my last was 3 to 4 seconds total, But
yeah,
and that's what we're trained to do. We're trained to keep firing until he's no longer a threat.
When you said you snap back into the room, because it's almost like you're in this bubble, and then it's happened, and you snap back out of it by something or someone. Are you straight into to releasing the hostages at this stage? Are you like the target's been neutralized, that's mission complete on that side? Now the next stage is to extract the hostages, because obviously you're dealing with not only live hostages, but you're dealing with dead hostages, right?
Yeah, of course. So like we were talking about before, the moment that the stun grenade went off, it was like I returned back to reality, real time, pushed forward to him, stood over him, realised he's no longer a threat. I was still processing that in the moment, only a couple of seconds or whatever, but my shield man, Paulie, pushed forward, began screaming, "You have been saved," to a hostage. In that moment, I realised now our priority is to get as many hostages out as we can. Priorities have changed. First priority, to neutralise him. I will say too, when I was standing over him looking down, I was looking at the backpack. I could still see it's full, there's wires coming out. So even in that moment, I still believed it was definitely a bomb. So now our new priority, before it potentially goes off at any time, is to get as many out, and that's what I did.
Wow, mate. Got an extract from your book, Tiger, 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 and which is a phenomenal book. And there's a paragraph in there that I thought explained it really well, and I'm going to read that paragraph. And this is when you heard Tiger, Tiger, Tiger. And it says, "But the brutal reality as we saw it was that as soon as we entered the cafe, everyone was going to die in a massive IED explosion. In that moment, this inevitably hit us like a proverbial Mack truck. Our training had incorporated strategies for deliberately putting away distracting feelings about being killed, but now death seemed almost a certainty. No one spoke. We just stood there, our rifles at the ready, shoulder to shoulder, ready to go, waiting for the whistle to blow, deep in our own thoughts." Wow. And I know that you broke that down and said exactly what you felt you were doing, of obviously running into a suicide mission. But when did you realize that suicide mission sort of was no longer? When did you realize that actually now we've got the upper hand? I've survived this. And the reason why I say it probably wasn't because the chaos of the situation, but to have that mindset before you breach, you face the terrorists, you've got all of these hostages, and all of a sudden, is there a moment where you think, I'm not going to die? We're safe, or we've lived through it, or did just the situation take over?
Yeah. So on entry, as I went to engage him, I believed I'd take 1 or 2 steps in, boom, it's all over. But all I can do in the moment is try and get him down, and that was our only hope that I saw it for us or the hostages. The moment I was standing over the top of him, so he's now dead, no longer a threat. I was processing that, but also processing that I can see the bomb. It's still there. It hasn't gone off. So even in those few seconds I was there, that was, I was processing, wait, I'm in here. I've actually killed him. I'm standing over his now dead body. The bomb hasn't gone off. So I'd say in that moment, it changed slightly in my mind. I didn't think I was safe, but I was still shocked and surprised. I was still alive, and he's now dead at my feet. So their priorities now change. Let's get as many hostages out as we can, because this may well go off at any time.
What's the situation like when you're getting the hostages out? Is it just get them out as quick as possible and get them to safety, and then start to process what the hell has gone on? Yeah.
Next phase is search as hard, as fast and as hard as you can. First hostage I went to was actually Louisa Hope with Paulie. She was sitting on the floor in a pretty bad way, definitely suffering from shock and everything. Paulie's tried lifting her up. I rushed to his side. I went to pick her up, and we're trying to rush her out as quick as we could, and realised she wasn't helping us. She wasn't walking. What was going on? And I looked down, and that's when I saw her foot. I believe it was shrapnel that she copped, and there was her foot was only literally being held on with a couple of tendons just dragging behind her. In that moment, it wasn't much time to process. Like, oh shit, okay. We picked her up fireman's carry and then rushed her out. Rushed her out the front, and the paramedics were all waiting. They rushed into her, quickly turned to go back into the cafe. That's when I looked down to my left, and there was someone all in black, receiving a lot of treatment by paramedics. That's when the man down came rushing back to me. I thought it was my supervisor, just quickly in the moment, because I believed initially it was him, because I knew there was a man down, didn't know the story behind it. And then it came quickly aware that it was Tory Johnson, who'd been executed, which is obviously very confronting. But then a couple of the other operators come out. One of them bumped into me with a hostage, so I just punched straight back into the cafe. And the lights were now on in the cafe, and as you know, as soon as you turn lights on from a dark space, the whole field, everything changes. Being dark, everything feels so much bigger and more open. As soon as the lights are on, it's changed, and it was not only a scene of chaos. It was a brutal scene. There was smashed glass everywhere. There were spent bullet cartridges, stun grenades, screaming, distraught hostages, and just blood everywhere. The place was filled with smoke. But I just went pushed straight to the back, and one of the other team leaders screaming out, using more tactical terms, I won't use here, but just search everywhere, search the place. We got to get out of here as fast as we can. The bomb's going to go off at any time. So I started scanning the back of the cafe, like sort of behind where he's still bleeding out on the floor, and that's when there's a lot of tables in the back corner stacked up with other tables on top and chairs and everything. And as I looked down, I could see what was the top of someone's head. I knew it was a hostage. I screamed out to my mate on my right, and we just rushed in, just throwing the tables as fast as we could. We just tried getting to her as fast as we could. And then each table we removed, we can see more and more of her. I knew, so I've quickly taken a knee. Her head came to rest on my forearm, and I knew she was in a real bad way from that point. I knew in that moment there was nothing I could really do. One of the boys screaming at me from behind, "We need medics!" So I knew the paramedics were on their way, and literally as we're looking into each other's eyes, all I could really do was just will her to take another breath. And then finally she didn't. She stopped breathing. It's I'd say it's still the toughest moment of my life, having her die in my arms like that. And then later finding out that she'd been killed by police shrapnel. I know if you look at it factually and everything else that's all come out, the rounds we're using fragged a lot. The rounds that even hit her may well have gone through him to hit her, but it's sort of something that I've always blamed myself for. And I'd say through all the other things I went through, all the other jobs I went through, this is the one thing that I knew I couldn't process, couldn't lock away, and I'd say it's the reason why I'm not still at work.
And you know what, mate? We have a whole tendency as soldiers to do exactly the same thing. We take something that was completely out of our control, and we take it personally. We own that. We own it personally when ultimately, we shouldn't. It's easier said than done. I've got good friends, and I went through a process myself of being in a patrol and someone getting blown up and thinking, well, I should have been there. That should have been me. I should have gone point that day. And then I look at the grand scheme of things, and that IED didn't have my pal's name on it, didn't have my name on it. It was just, it just happened in a way. And again, with ricochets and collateral damage, it's one of those where the personal element, if you can try and take away that personal element and go, right, well, actually, this is what I personally done and what I personally controlled, which you ultimately saved multiple hostages, and you took out an evil individual. You took out a threat to not only humanity, but to for further chaos and destruction if they would have got their own way. In your book, you talk about the high price that you've paid for your service. What toll did the siege take on you?
I'd say right from that moment, like I've obviously witnessed and seen and been part of a lot of other traumatic incidents, and I was after it. I did manage to stay on in the TAU for another 6 years after it. But all the others, everything else I've seen, I've been able to lock away, and just I'll deal with it later, which is obviously not right, but it's something you do to keep operational. But I knew this one instantly. It's really taken its toll. I had to fight everything I had because all I wanted to do was be with my support network, which are the boys, the other operators. Mm-hmm. And my symptoms were severe. My hypervigilance is next level. Anytime I was at work, I'd walk around literally with my hand on my gun the whole time. I'd even see just randoms, other police or anyone just being shot and bleeding out in front of me. Not that I'd done it, but just that was what was happening. Anytime I saw a blonde woman, I'd instantly believe it was Katrina, and just instant panic attack, and just have to conceal it all. It slowly did get better over time, and I managed to get back to a point where I believe I was effective operationally. But yeah, for the 6 months following, it was bad, and I didn't want to tell anyone. I wanted to deal with it myself. I wanted to be with the boys. I wanted to be with them. And as you know, that's your support network for people who've been through similar things, and they're the ones you're with all the time. But yeah, I did manage to lock it away. I'd say managed to last for another 6 years until, my cup just overflowed. I could tell it was creeping in. It was starting to overwhelm me, and had a mate of mine telling me to go and see his good psych that he knew, and fought it for a long time, and eventually I did. And yeah, that was when my whole journey and my fight with PTSD started from that point, I'd say.
How are you getting on now?
So yeah, that started a whole new phase of my life with PTSD, and initially I'd say it was getting the better of me. I was pretty much alcoholic, not sleeping, nightmares, all that sort of thing. That went on for longer than I'd like. Eventually, I remember a moment where I just snapped at my girls, and it was unreasonable. I knew I had to sort it out. I forced myself under the guidance of my psych to go and do a stint in a psych hospital. That's extremely confronting, which I did. But yeah, my new fight was that, and it's not. I was unwilling to have that as my identity. I'm not willing to have anything beat me. PTSD wasn't going to beat me, and I'm pretty stubborn that way. I just applied sort of what I learned in the TAU just to confront the threat, and then use every resource you can. And that then led into the book and my journey with it, the way I go about fighting PTSD, and put it in the book. And that's getting good traction, and it's now helping a lot of people, which is something I want.
Saving lives again, mate. Saving lives again. Honestly, it's there's no fluffer for it. It saves lives, mate.
In a way, I feel like that's my new service. And yeah, getting my name out there, that was important to me, because not only do I want to put my name to my story and tell the untold actions of the TAU, every brave operator on the day, but then my journey with PTSD, which has already helped people and I know will help people.
You want to tell your story, mate. You want to tell your story, and I'm glad that I can be part of that, mate, with my podcast Head Game. But your book, Tiger. Listen, your story's in there. It's a phenomenal book. I would recommend that anyone go and buy it. And Benny, listen, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on this podcast, mate. But ultimately what you're doing, and again, I know it's hard to hear, is with your books and with your story is you are saving lives, mate. So that's what you are, mate. You're a lifesaver. Continue to save lives, mate. And hopefully this podcast will help as well. Yeah, no, I really, really appreciate you having me on and getting the word out there, because now, yeah, I just want to get out and speak to as many people and help as many as I can. So appreciate this, man. My guest today was Ben Besant. To find out more about his experience in the Lindt Cafe siege, you can read the full story in his book, Tiger. I'll link the details in the show notes, or you can head to tigerbook.com. Thanks so much for joining me for this episode of Head Game. If you enjoyed it, please leave me a review. I'm at Middleton. Catch you in the next episode.